Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Women Inspiring Women Virtual Empowerment Brunch. My name is Pastor Heaven, and I'll be your host this afternoon. I just want to first shout out and just say thank you to everyone that is joining us. As you're joining us into the conversation, as always, please let us know where you're from. So drop your name in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. If you're tuning in on the West Coast, good morning. If you're tuning in here on the East Coast, good afternoon. We are so grateful to have you all join us today. So I'm excited, you guys. We are taking this opportunity as we close out Women's Month to really honor all of the amazing women in this world, all the amazing women at FCBC. Each one of you are inspirations and inspirations to someone. And so we thank you so much for all the amazing things that you are, who you are, what you embody. And so we celebrate all of the women today. So happy Women's Month to all of the women watching today. So as you're coming into the conversation, as I mentioned, drop your name in the chat. Let us know your location. I'm here in Harlem, back in New York City. I was away for a little bit, had a chance to visit New Orleans. So it was an amazing place, got a little tan, but I'm back here in Harlem. So let us know your location. But today, we are going to be doing something very special, something I've been really looking forward to this event. We are going to be honoring four amazing women, four inspiring women today who will be sharing a little bit about their stories, their journeys, and then, dropping some gems along the way. So we see you, Wasita, Taniqua, North Carolina. So many people are coming into the conversation. Thank you so much. And listen, if you're watching on Facebook, hit the share button. Share this with your network. Like I said, we have some phenomenal women today who are going to be dropping so many gems, sharing their stories. And it's going to be a powerful moment. So make sure to hit the share button on Facebook. Make sure to send the link to someone that you know, the YouTube link to your friends, to your families. We have Shay, who's tuning in from New Jersey. Thank you so much for tuning in. So make sure you hit the share button, hit the like button, whatever it is, so that we can make sure that there are so many people that are watching this this afternoon. We have folks that are tuning in from New York. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And also, listen, I want you to also put in the chat, who is someone that inspires you, right? We're talking about inspiring women today. And so we've all been inspired by different women in our lives. Some of them have been our mothers. Some of them have been our teachers. Some of them have been people that we've met at work. Some of them have been just people that we've just engaged with, our friends that we have relationships with. So drop in the chat who has inspired you, and we'll make sure to try to put their name up on the screen as we go through today's event. So we have Felicia joining us from the Bronx, but she currently lives in Laurel, Maryland. We have Sharon joining us from Harlem. Great. So Harlem, we have the Village. Awesome. Continuing folks that are coming in from Harlem. And we have Arizona. I think I see Arizona's in the building. We got Deacon Dawn joining us as well. Thank you so much. So before we get started, we want to take this opportunity. We're going to open up this segment with a cooking segment. Oh, we have Ayana Bullock. Yes, Ayana continues to be an amazing inspiration. And so thank you so much, Orlando, for lifting her name up in this moment. Before we begin today's event, before we begin our conversation, we're going to open up with a cooking segment. So one of our honorees is a chef, Chef Jasmine Renee Andrews. And she's just a phenomenal chef. She's also a friend of mine. And I'm just super excited for her to be able to share with you guys a quick, brief cooking segment. So listen, grab your notepad, your pen, your paper, so you can write down, notes about, how she's cooking and maybe what are the ingredients that she's using. But also, if you don't have an opportunity to do that, we will make sure that this video lives on our YouTube and Facebook page. And so we'll make sure that you can be able to kind of go back and look at it and kind of follow what she does. So we have Barbara. So I'm going to just uplift some of the names. I see Pastor Lakeisha. Pastor Lakeisha is none other than the first female president of New York Theological Seminary, and she is a phenomenal inspiration to all women at FCBC, but also so many Black women clergy like myself. So we want to uplift her name today. So we thank Pastor Lakeisha for all that she's done as being a trailblazer and inspiring so many of us. So thank you so much, Deacon Dawn, for uplifting her name today. So without further ado, we are going to We're going to kick it off with our cooking segment from Chef Jasmine Renee Andrews. Enjoy.
afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having me today. My name is Chef Jasmine Renee, and I'm here to show you a little quick cooking demo for Women's History Month. We all love brunch. We all like a fabulous brunch. We love, of course, the chicken and waffles, the shrimp and grits, but I wanted to do something a little different, a little more fun. So if you're entertaining at home and you decide to have a little brunch with people, because nowadays we're doing a lot of things that are a little bit more intimate with the people that we love and that we're close to, I'm going to show you guys how to make some spiced meatballs with the green goddess dressing. So get everything out that you need and we can get started. So what I have here first is some beaten eggs. So what I have here is some fresh grass-fed organic ground lamb. You can get it at Whole Foods or Wegmans or your local grocery store that has a great butcher. This is grass-fed or organic lamb, and I have about 2 pounds of this, okay? We also are going to have fresh herbs. I have about 1/4 cup of equal parts, we call them fiend herbs. It's parsley, thyme, dill, and tarragon, all mixed up in this. So we're going to add this into our bowl. We're also going to add in our fabulous spice mix of cumin, coriander, and we have a little bit of red chili flakes in here as well, just to give it a nice little kick. Then we want to add our breadcrumbs. You can use fresh bread if you don't have any breadcrumbs. So I also like to add a little garlic powder and onion powder to my breadcrumbs. These are store-bought, so we're just going to add that in. And this is a 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs. Then we have our beaten egg. We're going to use 1 beaten egg, okay? Put all that to the side. Then my special thing I'd like to do is I like to roast fresh garlic, and we get a roasted garlic, and I like to puree it. It has an amazing flavor. So we're going to go ahead and get us a spoon, and we're going to add that on in to our mix today, okay? Let's get that all in there. So when you're mixing meat, some of us are brave and don't use gloves, but no, we're going to use gloves. It's a time of coronavirus, and we want to make sure that everybody is being safe, and we're doing everything as clean as possible. So we have our gloves. I have my gloves ready. We're going to get ready to mix. So let's just go over some of the things I put in here again. We have our fresh ground lamb. We have our coriander cumin mix. That's about 1/4 cup as well, with a little bit of pinch of red chili flakes. It depends on how much spice and heat you like. We have our fiend herbs, which is our parsley chopped, dill chopped, our tarragon chopped as well, and our thyme. We love thyme. So we just want to make sure we have a lot of flavor in here, and we want to make sure that we have enough eggs and all the things so these meatballs will not be dry. So let's go ahead and mix everything up. It already smells good. I can feel this is going to be amazing. And when you're mixing, make sure you have a nice bowl so you can get all the seasonings that are around the edges. You see all that? You want to scoop that in while you're mixing so you can make sure everything is evenly spread throughout and mixed in into your lamb mixture. And this is what you should have so far. See how it looks? Everything is mixed in evenly. There shouldn't really be too much seasoning left on the side of the bowl. And we're going to switch gloves because we are cooking and keeping clean at the same time. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So what we want to do here is the last thing seasoning I didn't add yet was salt. And I add salt last. And we never want to shake the salt into our mixture of anything that we're cooking because you know that mess when you slip, you can't revive it. It's too salty. So what we want to do is always get a little salt, put it in your hand, and just sprinkle it throughout your dish. And then you can control how much salt you're putting in there. Okay, so I actually use kosher salt. I really love kosher salt, and that's what we use in the restaurants anyway, you know? Now, a lot of you might not have fresh herbs. You can use dried herbs. It's just as fine. I just love fresh herbs. So we're going to give this one more little mix to make sure our salt is in here, okay? As you notice behind me, I have a cookie sheet tray with some parchment paper laid down, okay? Just want to make, or if you have a nonstick pan, you can use that as well. This is nonstick, but you know how that story goes sometimes. So we have everything. And also get yourself a little scoop if you have one. You don't have to have one. You can use a measuring cup too if you have the stackables. Get yourself a little scoop because we're going to scoop our meatballs and we're going to put them on the parchment paper. Please make sure your oven is preheated to 400 degrees. This is only going to take 20 minutes in the oven with our great, fabulous lamb meatballs. All right, guys? So what we're going to do first is we're going to take a scoop of the meatball. You just want to make sure you have it packed in there nicely, not too tight, just enough so it's nice and evened out and layered out fine, okay? Here's our meatball. Give it a nice roll. Beautiful. See that, guys? Should look just like this. Beautiful meatballs. We love them. Great size. And we're going to do this continuously until we don't have any more. All right? All right, so we're rolling up our last meatballs. We have one more to go on our tray. On this tray, I still have a little bit left over. I can probably pull like 5 more out of here. But here we are, just lightly rolling with our gloves on. And here we are. I can do one more, actually. Let's just make sure we're even, getting everything in there. Not too packed in. Leveling it off, scoop, roll, nice and light, light roll. And here we are. And here's our beautiful tray of meatballs that we should be ready to eat. They are ready to go in the oven. My oven is preheated. And before I put them in the oven, I'm just going to take a little light olive oil. I have more control, but if you have a brush, just brush a little olive oil on top. So I'm just going to give it a little drizzle. And that's what we're doing here. Great. And now our meatballs are ready to go into our oven. We will come back and check on these in 20 minutes. Now that we've had our meatballs in the oven, let's clear everything up, wash off everything, and get ready for the next thing. The important part about cleaning is that you want to make sure there's no cross-contamination. So we just worked with our raw meat and raw eggs. Let's get that out the way, wipe down our counter, and get out our nice fresh herbs so we can make our beautiful, easy green goddess dressing. See you guys in a second. Hello! So we just pulled our meatballs out the oven. We want to let them rest for about 5 minutes. So look how beautiful they look. Yes, yes, yes. Get into it. And we can get started on our dressing. So what I have here is a quick food processor. This is my baby food processor. But if you don't have that and you have pretty decent knife skills, just kind of mince everything up. So I have a bowl here as well because we're going to use the yogurt in the bowl. So first what I want to do is I have 1 cup of baby spinach. We're going to add this into the food processor. Then we have a mixture of equal parts of mint leaves, fresh mint leaves, and fresh parsley. We're going to go ahead and add that into the food processor as well. Then we have an avocado. Everybody loves avocado. We're going to add that into the food processor as well. And I have 1 whole lemon juiced. So let's go ahead and pour that in as well. Once we do that, I have 4 cloves of garlic. We'll put that in. Okay, everybody? Let's do that. So let's get our cover on, and we will start to mix this up. Look at that. Look at that. Nice puree. Always open it up. I like to just stuff it back down there one more time nicely. Give it another little. So we did that, right? We're gonna take our yogurt. It could be regular yogurt. I have regular yogurt, but I usually use Greek because it's thicker. We're going to add that on into this bowl. Get a nice spatula so you can get everything out the corners so you don't waste anything. Then we are going to take this off and we are going to start to add this mixture in to our yogurt. Okay. Of course, we want to put a little salt in. Salt to taste. Hand, remember guys, sprinkle over, sprinkle over. And I also have some white pepper. White pepper is similar to black pepper. It's just less aggressive and it doesn't show up in your food. So we have our white pepper. Then the last thing I want us to do is, I don't know if you guys have a lemon zester at home, but I would love for us to start zesting everything. So here's our zester. Gives it a nice zing. Let's get a little zesting in here. And if you don't have a zester, maybe a little cheese grater. Same thing. Same job. So we'll get that in there. I usually use about a teaspoon of olive oil as well. Now, if you have a whisk, let's whisk that on up. And it should be starting to turn a beautiful, bright green color. It is gorgeous. Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. Look at that color. Look how lovely it looks. We're getting into it. Great. So for our last bit, we're just going to do some quick plating. I have my green goddess in a bowl and I have a nice spoon. And I also have some nice garnish for the end. And of course, behind us, we have our meatballs. So if you have a nice dish or a flat plate, you want to do is just put your green goddess dressing at the bottom. And the great thing about this dressing is you can use it with many other things. So let's just lay it across. Make sure it's evenly spread out through your dish. Then we are going to get our tray of meatballs and nicely place them in our dish. 2. Let me get this one like that bad boy. 3, 4, and we can do 5 in here. What I like to do is, I like to give it a little bit more lemon zest all the way down. And then I have some little beet bull's blood just to give it a little pop of color. You don't have to use this. This is just what I do. And we're just going to sprinkle it all across each one of these. And here we have your spicy meatballs in green goddess. Enjoy, everybody. This should be a great brunch appetizer. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the panel.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely hungry. So I know I'm going to be cooking that. So thank you so much, Chef Jasmine Renee. And so, yes, we will get the website. We'll put the video will be on the website, but we'll definitely get the information for you guys to be able to post possibly on the Instagram page, the recipe for today. But it definitely does look delicious, Cynthia. So I hope that you guys will all have a chance to make it. And when you do make it, post it. Tag FCBC so we know that you tried out the recipe. But like I said, I know I'm hungry, so I know I'll definitely be trying it. So thank you so much to our honoree, Chef Jasmine, for putting that video together. So we are getting ready to get to the most important part, one of our the meat of today's event, and that is our conversation with our 4 honorees. And so I'm grateful and looking forward to having this phenomenal discussion. So I will be introducing them one by one. I'll be reading their bios. And so once we have everyone on, we'll begin with our conversation. And towards the end, if you have any questions for the panelists, or if you want to, possibly even connect with them, they'll share their Instagram and their social media network information. But if you have any questions, make sure to write them down. I'll give everyone an opportunity towards the end of the conversation to be able to ask their questions. Or throughout the segment, you can also post your questions in the chat, and we'll make sure to put them up on the screen. So without further ado, I'm going to begin by introducing our first honoree for the afternoon. And she's actually in California, so for the morning. So we're going to start off by introducing Rahwa Gebraab. She is the Senior Vice President at Lionsgate for Business and Legal Affairs. So as Lionsgate's Senior Vice President of Business and Legal Affairs and the company's lead employment counsel, Rahwa Gebraab works closely with Lionsgate senior management, the company's human resources team, its production teams, and employees at all levels to address the company's day-to-day employment needs and support its M&A, other strategic growth initiatives around the world. During her time at Lionsgate, Rahwa has also helped direct legal and employment matters related to Lionsgate's launch of its offices in Mumbai, India, Beijing, China, and Toronto, Canada, as the company continues to globalize its operations. In addition, she provides legal support and employment counsel to Lionsgate's numerous films and television productions, joint ventures, and SVOD platforms. As employment counsel, Rahwa has also played a prominent role in developing and overseeing the implementation of practices and policies that create a safe, tolerant, diverse, and inclusive work environment for Lionsgate employees. A BA degree recipient from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, shout out to University of Michigan, and a JD degree recipient from the University of Chicago Law School. Rahwa began her career as an employment litigator at the law firm of Baker McKenzie in Chicago. She joined Lionsgate in 2014 and currently resides in Inglewood, California. She serves on the Association of Media and Entertainment Council's Women Who Lead board, and as a board member of Habesha Networks, a grassroots nonprofit organization in multiple cities and around the world, committing to developing and implementing methods of connectivity and support between Eritreans and Ethiopian communities across the globe. I'm going to introduce Rahwa. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Inglewood, California.
Thank you so much for having me, Pastor Heaven. I'm so honored and humbled to be here. And thank you to FCBC NYC. That's a tongue twister. Thank you all for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And our next panelist and honoree is Tiffany Gatlin. Tiffany Gatlin is an innovator with 15 years of experience in direct and consumer sales. Currently, she is the CEO and founder of Latchton Hook Beauty. Prior to Latchton Hook Beauty, Tiffany co-founded Curlicon Hair, the first brand to mass produce and retail pre-curled and looped crochet hair in the textured hair extension segment of the beauty industry. Before Curlicon Hair, she held the position of Assistant Vice President of Consumer and Small Business Banking at Bank of America, a global leader in wealth management, corporate and investment banking, serving over 66 million consumer and small business clients. Tiffany also worked as a freelancer, creating organic campaigns with and for brands such as AT&T, Wells Fargo, Dryle, General Motors, Lexus, and among others. Tiffany and her brand have been featured by national publications such as Black Enterprise, Essence, Allure, Cosmopolitan, and more, and has provided her business expertise on numerous podcasts and influential stages across the United States. Tiffany holds a BA in Public Relations from Clark Atlanta University. She enjoys community service with her sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, and traveling with her 4 children and husband of 15 years. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and share with your audience today.
Yes, 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 yes. And listen, I'm just so excited because each one of you guys have these stacked resumes. So I'm just over here like, I need to catch up. But no, super excited to have all of you guys joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Next, we have our third panelist and honoree, Aish Thomas Petit. She is AMC's network's first Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. Aisha Thomas Petit is charged with building on and advancing the company's DEI goals and foundation. As a key member of the senior leadership team, reporting directly to President and CEO Josh Sapin, Thomas Petit is responsible for setting the strategy, roadmap, and measures of success to develop, bolster, and retain a diverse and inclusive community both within the company's workforce as well as in front and behind the camera. Additionally, across AMC Network's portfolio of entertainment brands. Additionally, Thomas Petit plays an integral role in advancing the company's commitment to telling original stories that entertain with vivid characters, stories, and worlds that show the full spectrum of human experiences. Before joining AMC Networks, Thomas Petit served as Chief Diversity, Inclusion, and Corporate Social Responsibility Officer at ADP. A seasoned DEI executive, she also held various leadership roles in human resources, including Division Vice President of the company's major accounts and Canada Division during her 7 years at ADP. Previously, Thomas Petit spent over 7 years at Barclays Center, including over 2 years at Lehman Brothers before it was purchased by Barclays, where she ultimately began the HR Director for Global Operations, driving people strategy for over 4,000 employees globally, and partnering with the global head of investment bank operations to drive talent and performance management, development, and compensation. Prior to Barclays, Thomas Petit spent 8 years at JP Morgan Chase, where she held several roles, including Vice President, HR for Shared Technology and Operations and Investment Bank Operations, leading strategy for a newly merged global organization of 2,400 employees. Thomas Petit holds a Master's of Business Administration degree in Marketing and Business Strategy from Rutgers University and a Bachelor of Science in Marketing from Syracuse University, where she graduated magna cum laude. She resides in New Jersey with her family. Everyone, thank you so much for welcoming Aisha Thomas Petit.
Thank you so much, Pastor Heaven. It is such a pleasure to be with you all. I can't stop smiling, and I can't wait to hear from the other panelists as well. So I'm looking to learn something along the way too.
Yes, thank you so much. And last, we have our final panelist and honoree, who you all just had a chance to see her wonderful cooking segment, Chef Jasmine Renee Andrews. Chef Jasmine Renee embodies our favorite part of food. You know it. It was your grandma, mom, and favorite auntie's secret ingredient, love. Although she grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia, Chef Jasmine traces her roots back to Louisiana, where Creole recipes have been passed down from generations. While Chef Jasmine is trained in both classic French and American cuisine, her heart lies with Louisiana French Creole. She prides herself in being able to elevate down-home classics and transform them from ordinary to extraordinary. I've taken my classically trained skills and my family recipes and turned them into something special. Some of her esteemed clients have included Comcast, Jack and Jill, Urban League, Philadelphia Link, Rutgers University, Bread for the City, as well as professional athletes from both the NBA and NFL. After graduating from Hampton University with a degree in marketing, Jasmine moved to New York City to work in fashion and marketing, merchandising from Ralph Lauren and Jones Group, Inc. The call of the kitchen eventually lured her back to Philly, where she apprenticed for acclaimed chef Daniel Stern. Under his tutelage, Chef Jasmine rose through the ranks, eventually going to apprentice to prep cook at Chef Stern's acclaimed R2L restaurant. She went on to expand her career working for Star Group restaurants such as Butcher and Singer, Barclay Prime, and Park. Chef Jasmine has had the great fortune to be able to work with and train under world-renowned chefs such as Marcus Samuelson, Mark Torski, Terrence Fury, and French master chef Georges Pierre. Chef Jasmine's love of food is only matched by her love of people. It's only fitting she collaborated with nonprofits in both Philadelphia and Maryland and helped to give back to the community. She aided both the Philadelphia Opportunities Industrialized Center, OIC, and North Philadelphia STOP program in creating specialized culinary job training programs and help to provide opportunities for second chances and rehabilitation. Chef Jasmine has also joined forces with a nonprofit in Maryland to craft job training and placement programs for adults with autism. Chef Jasmine offers a variety of concierge services, meal prep, in-home cooking classes, event catering, and private catering, and is available for travel. Ever feel too tired to grocery shop? Let Chef Jasmine do the shopping for you. Do you ever want to get healthy but don't know where to begin? A pantry and fridge rehab might be perfect for you. Chef Jasmine will sort through and organize your pantry, fridge, and kitchen. She will leave you with a functionally organized pantry and fridge, as well as a comprehensive list of food items and utensils needed to complete your healthy kitchen. Let Chef Jasmine's culinary acumen and outgoing personality be the highlight of your kitchen or next event. Without further ado, let us welcome our final panelist and honoree for the afternoon, Chef Jasmine Renee Andrews.
Hi, thank you, Pastor Heaven. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with all women and to talk about women's history and what we all do. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. And I'm so excited because all of you guys have different fields and different backgrounds. But I'm sure that you each have so many things that are probably where your stories have merged and things that you guys can relate to one another. So this is going to be a phenomenal conversation. I want it to be like a girls chat. So I'm excited to have 4 phenomenal Black women who are leading in their industry, in their field. So I'm grateful for you all. So I'm going to open up today's conversation. I know I had a chance to read your bios, but I want you guys to also give us, in your own words, a little bit about your journey and how you've gotten to this point in your life right now with your current role, position, and company. So Rahua, I'm going to kick it off to you first. So just share a little bit more about your journey and how you got to Lionsgate.
I'd be happy to. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, from wherever you're joining us. I think where I should start is at the point that I didn't have a clear vision for my career. I didn't coming out of college. I knew I just wanted to do something of substance. And looking back, my career trajectory being a series of one shots was quite fortuitous because I needed direction. And when I say one shots, I mean I got one shot, one opportunity at a time. And that's how my path was directed. I took the only job offered to me out of college after applying for so many. I was a paralegal at a law firm working in international trade in Washington, D.C. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I knew it was time to move on. So I told myself, you know what? You're doing okay here. Being an attorney is a respectable career. If the Lord permits it and you get into a top 10 law school, go to law school. I got into one top 10 law school. And yet again, the decision was made. I got one offer out of law school, during the Great Recession. Wonderful timing, of course, at a law firm. I took it. That law firm, 3 weeks before my start date, told me that I'd be slotted into the labor and employment group. No experience. Never took not nary a labor nor employment class. The decision was made. I took that opportunity, did my best. Ended up really enjoying it. So at this point, my path was really kind of starting to form. I started to understand what I liked, what I didn't like. That work presented me with the chance to service Sony Pictures Entertainment as a client, which both helped me further sharpen the vision for the next steps in my career and also resulted in a move to San Diego, California with that same firm. So I could further pursue a legal career in the entertainment space. Got laid off from that firm, moved to LA, hoped and prayed for the best. After many interviews and rejections, landed at one more law firm. Mind you, hundreds of applications, hundreds of interviews it felt like, and just one offer. 2 years and additional rejections later, I landed at Lionsgate. And it has really been quite a journey ever since. I am where I am supposed to be. And my career has blossomed in ways I could not have even dreamed. I didn't see the vision, but the vision saw me. And that's my story.
I like that one-liner. Didn't see the vision. And I think, Rahua, what your story kind of really emphasizes is that, like, sometimes you don't really know what you're doing, but as long as you kind of just keep putting your, one foot in front of the other, sometimes the vision will just start to kind of reveal itself to you.
That's really it. That was my story.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Tiffany, listen, I know as an entrepreneur, I can't even imagine what your story has been, because to be an entrepreneur is not to be easy, to kind of get, be on your own. So share a little bit about your story and how you got to, founding this phenomenal, organization in this beauty industry, Latched and Hooked.
So my story is long, and obviously we don't have time, but high level, I was an entrepreneur for 11 years. After working in corporate America. And when I landed into entrepreneurship, I did not really have a clear path in terms of what I wanted to do. I just knew that corporate America was not allowing me to fulfill my creative, juices. And I wanted to do something and create something of my own, but I didn't necessarily know what that was going to be. And if you're an entrepreneur, you can probably attest to the fact that you find other means of revenue while you're an entrepreneur to just make it all work. And being an entrepreneur where, at this point, I think I've had 2 children, I'm married, my household required me to be an active, participant of my household. So I had to find other ways of making income. And so I went back to doing hair. When I was 15 years old in high school, my first job, my first taste of entrepreneurship was actually braiding hair.
There you go.
I got my first client from the kids in the school, and hitting me on my pager and getting clients. Probably dating myself at this point, but I didn't know that was my first taste of entrepreneurship at that time. But I was doing influencer marketing. I did my best friend's hair. She was like popular in school, and so she went around and told everybody who did her hair, and then that's how I got clients. So I took that experience and I said, well, I know how to do hair. And that was a quick way for me to make money. And so in 2014, this style crochet braids was kind of evolving at that time. Crochet is not a new method. It's something that's been around for decades. But the style of the pre-curled hair and it looking like a rod set, I'm like, oh, I like this. And it'll only take me about a couple hours to do. So I'm writing down how many clients I could possibly get in a 2-hour time frame. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I loved the outcome, but I hated the method of rolling the hair and dipping it in the hot water. It was very dangerous. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't any crochet hair on the market at that time. There was only braiding hair on the market. So that's all we had available to us. And I thought, what if I pre-curled this hair and I sold it already curled, where women could create this style without having to dip the hair in the hot water and potentially burn themselves. So me starting was out of the pain point of me seeing women literally getting on social media telling other women, oh, get a whole bunch of towels, put it around you so that you don't burn yourself, and then dip your hair. I see Jasmine laughing because she probably did the style. And, and I'm like, wait, we cannot tell women to, put all these towels around you so that you don't burn yourself for the sake of, not getting burned, because we are conditioned to think that beauty equals pain. And I wanted to change that narrative. So the first product that I ever created was the pre-curled and looped hair in a box, in a decorative box. And then from there, I started really getting interested in understanding what the chemicals that were being used in the formulation of synthetic hair. And so now it goes beyond hair. And for us and my brand, it's about creating products that don't compromise a Black woman's skin, their health, or their confidence. And so all of our products are safe, they're non-toxic. And we're just continuing to create solutions for Black women. We specifically cater to busy professionals, women who are in corporate America, women who just, don't have a lot of time to spend on their hair and are looking for fast solutions where they also don't have to compromise their look of their textured hair. So our hair blends in really nicely with textured hair. And we're just trying to evolve in that space and make it not feel like such a shameful solution if you decide that you want to use hair extensions in your hair just because you want to give yourself, some time and a little break.
Yeah, thanks. So those of you guys that don't know, make sure to check out Latched and Hooked so that you can see, meet all of your hair needs. But I really appreciate, Tiffany, how you shared that your journey started when you were in high school, right? As an entrepreneur, that's when you and taking a lot of those skills and making them transferable. And you, like you said, you were doing influencer marketing before influencer marketing was even a term.
It
was not even a term yet. So so grateful that you follow that path and you are where you are now. So thank you so much for sharing. Aisha, so you have a really kind of the first new role in your company. And so tell us a little bit more about how you got there and how this role was created. And I'm, at a very pivotal time right now when diversity is become a very huge conversation when we're in corporate spaces.
Yeah, sure. When I think about the journey, it really started 23 years ago. I can't even believe that I've been working that long, but not necessarily because it's a long time, but because I can remember specifically a point at the beginning of the journey where I decided what I thought I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was 24 years old. I was operating in a company that was very progressive, JP Morgan Chase. And I was in the human resources function, though performing a bit of a marketing role, recruitment marketing. And I remember very specifically needing to decide whether or not I would go the corporate marketing route or the HR route. And as a young person or a kid, I can also remember doing some simple math that, let me see, there are probably more roles in HR than there are in marketing departments. So, for a young Black girl in corporate America, I went where the numbers took me. So I set on a path to start to take on more specific core HR kind of roles.
Mhm.
And I looked around the table at the top of my organization, and at that point, the table was not the CEO table. I didn't even think about the CEO table, to be honest with you. I looked at the HR leadership team, and I said, "Who there do I respect, admire, want to be like?" And you can imagine, 23 years ago, there might have been one other, but there were relatively few people who looked like me and you, all of us, at that time. So I identified a woman, Susan, and Susan was fierce. When she opened her mouth, everyone listened. She commanded a room. She had an MBA, which was not very customary in the human resources function at that time. And so I said, I'm going to be on the HR leadership team of a company one day. I don't know if I can do that in my current company, but in a company. And so I set on a mission to do that. I've had the pleasure of working in 5 remarkable organizations. The first 16 years of my career were spent in financial services, which was hard, not just because I've lived through many cycles of economic downturns, but it's just a grueling industry. And it's an industry that didn't always allow us to be ourselves. And so I slicked my today my hair is flat, but it's really usually curly. I slicked my hair back in the tightest bun. I wore a black, brown, or gray suit. I had stockings on. I talked the talk. I didn't use y'all like I usually do and like I do today. And I took opportunities that became available to me. I had incredible people on my path who held my hand along the way. But I ultimately spent time, as later on as a human resources executive before joining ADP. When I joined ADP, it was a big step back for me. I was on a crazy upward trajectory, had reached a level and a title that was respectable and was making some really good money. But I was also happily married and a mother of 2 young children. And the idea of being on a plane, going to the UK more often than I'd like to count, what wasn't as desirable. And so I took a $30,000 pay cut to join a brand new organization outside of an industry that I was familiar with. I went to ADP to start the first. Actually, it was the first in New York innovation lab centered around technology, and from there took on a series of roles within that company. Never ever expecting to be a chief diversity officer. You can imagine that role over a 20-year period. What wasn't a thing until it was a thing, and so I never. It didn't occur to me to sort of write that in the plan. And I can remember times where I thought, I don't want to be backed into a chief diversity officer role because I'm a woman and because I'm Black. I would much rather be what I said I was going to be when I was 24 years old, which was on the HR leadership team of a company. And I share that with you because at 41 years old, I actually became an HR executive that sat around the leadership table at ADP. And as elated as I was to have achieved my goal and to have achieved a level that many, many people that look like me and us would not achieve, I can remember specifically sitting at my brand new fancy office and crying my eyes out. And I had to sit there for a longer period of time to just assess, like, was I crying because I'm happy, or am I crying because something in me is telling me something is wrong? And I was happy. I was very glad that, you know, I had been supported and had worked hard. I'm a go hard kind of gal, right? So I went hard to get to where I was, but it occurred to me for the first time in my professional career that I had not dreamed big enough. At 41 years old, I thought, what in the heck am I going to do now? If I achieve the goal that I set for myself at 24, what am I going to do? It didn't matter that I was sitting my hiney in the seat for 5 minutes. I was already thinking about the fact that I had not planned past that point. And it made me uncomfortable. I was not with it. I'm like, I got to figure out what I'm going to do next. And I didn't even really realize until that point that I could be a chief of anything. I knew I could get to the table, but I did not have my eyes set, or my sight set rather, on working on the leadership team of a company. I just didn't. And so the opportunity became available for me to go into the Chief Diversity Officer spot at ADP. It was not something that I was looking for. It was sort of just the universe conspiring for me. And you know who my universe is, the Lord. And I was only in the role for about a year before this opportunity came up. I was not looking for a job. In fact, I was working 24/7 in the summer of 2020, which we all know what that represented. Huge pivotal moment for our country and for the world around race, and also dealing with a bit of a double crisis. Race and COVID was enough to collapse a person, including me. And I happened to be going on to LinkedIn to post something for my company, and as my role would dictate. And I said, I haven't looked in my inbox in a while, my LinkedIn inbox. And don't you know, there were several opportunities there. And the first one was from AMC Networks. And I didn't need a job. I wasn't looking for one. I loved the space that I was operating in. But it occurred to me again that title and money does not equal growth. And so when I evaluated the opportunity to go to AMC Networks, it was purely and specifically with a growth mindset. The opportunity to impact a different group of people, extend my leadership in a space that is wildly unfamiliar to me, got me all the way excited. And here I am working on the leadership team of a company that has never had a Black executive at the table. And for that, I am grateful.
Wow. I don't even have any words. Thank you so much. That is such an amazing accomplishment. And I think what you're sharing is just this idea of, as long as you're doing the work and you're putting yourself out there, opportunities will come. People will see you. People will notice you.
Yes.
And so I'm so grateful that you're in this phenomenal position and being the first. And I know being the first is not easy. So, we're sending you all our prayers and love as you continue this work.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, and then we have Chef Jasmine Renee. So I'm so curious to hear a little bit more about your journey, because you didn't start in the cooking industry, but you found your way here, and you have made great strides. So share a little bit more about your story as well.
So my story is funny. I actually went to Hampton University. I went to study marketing, and I just knew that I wanted to be working for InStyle magazine. But the funny thing is, as a child, I always liked to cook. And Culinary, like Top Chef and all these things came out when I was at the end of my college career. Culinary wasn't really as respected as it is now. It's like a big thing. You're like a rock star. But and the opportunities for Black people weren't strong, especially for women in general in the kitchen. So I actually had the opportunity to meet a couple chefs, and I had to beg my way into a kitchen to even work. So the funny part about it was I decided that I was going to quit my job and just go for it. I'm in my 20s. If it doesn't work out, then I can go back to this. But I really like to cook. It really makes me happy when I'm sad, whatever. And I just really like it. So I quit my job and I had to work for 6 months to a year for free. You want to talk about a lifestyle change? A total lifestyle change. Then when they finally paid me, I was only getting $10 an hour. Mind you, I went to Hampton.
We'll see if Jasmine. Okay, she's coming back.
This day, you guys hear me? I had this day where I went home and cried, and I cried myself to sleep because the culinary stuff was so hard. The first day I got into a kitchen, they dropped a 100-pound bag of onions on my table. I had to peel, cut, and chop every single one in this small room. But they were waiting to see me break. I was not going to break. I wasn't going to give anybody the satisfaction to see me break. I went home, I cried, and I woke up the next morning still ready to go back and wanting more. I knew that wasn't my destination. I knew that eventually I wanted to go further in my career, but I realized at that point that I had made the right decision. No, I wasn't making all the money at the time. Yes, I looked a mess and gained so much weight from these vigorous hours that I've been working. I couldn't hang out with my friends anymore because when you're really a restaurant chef, you don't have time to hang out. So I literally dedicated my life to what I was doing. The beautiful part about my journey is that I said, how can I still be me and be outgoing and have a lot of personality and still be a chef and make the kind of financial stability that I need in my life? This can't be only it. Like, I can't work like this all the time. So I got a couple of opportunities in catering, which is great. Catering is awesome. But I started applying for jobs randomly before I came to New York. I actually came to New York about a year and a half ago. I came to New York. Long story short, I got an opportunity from the Four Seasons in Philadelphia. They have a Jean-Georges restaurant. They actually offered me a job. But a couple days later, the Metropolitan Museum of Art contacted me about a job. So I actually got to New York. I went on a bus. And next thing you know, they're offering me the executive sous chef position at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. So now I'm working for Restaurant Associates. My company does the U.S. Open. We work for the Avenue at Saks. We do American Express. We are everywhere globally. So I finally have a career where I can have a life, make the financial corporate money that I'm making, and really learn the business and have time to like do different things. With that, I got another promotion. They gave me an executive chef promotion to the Rubin Museum of Art down in Chelsea. You know, God works in mysterious ways. They took me out of the Rubin. I was kind of feeling down and I was like, gosh, like, this is horrible. Well, coronavirus hit. All of the places that I have applied to for jobs had all been closed. My job had actually moved me into more corporate dining, which was First Republic Bank. I have not skipped a beat of work. I've been working the entire time. So my feeling down turned around into this whole thing. And now I have time to focus on my personal business again. So this has been a great experience and the opportunities for me keep coming. So I had to find my way. You have to stick to it and the world will just open up to you if you just keep putting yourself out there. And that's what I did. I had to just trust myself and trust the opportunities that God was sending my way. And here I am now.
And here you are now. And thank you. And we actually, Jasmine and I met right when she had moved into New York City. So, you know, right when she had started the Met. And so it's actually a really funny story, but, you know, it was great to kind of be there at the beginning to see you kind of do this work. And I think which you shared a little bit about the impact of the pandemic. And I want to elaborate for all of us, because we know we're still in this global pandemic. And to be honest, we've experienced over the last year 2 pandemics, right? We have the pandemic of racism and the pandemic in this COVID pandemic. And so I'm curious for, Jasmine, you kind of alluded to a little bit. So I want to kind of tip it off to Tiffany. How has this, particularly as being an entrepreneur in this climate right now, how has the pandemic impacted you? How has it impacted your company? And how have you found a way to, pivot if you needed to pivot at all during this time?
So what the pandemic did for my company was it solidified that we were an essential business in the Black community. It solidified that Black women still cared about the way they showed up, and that they still had to show up to their job, whether they had to show up physically or whether they had to show up on Zoom. More than ever, they needed us, because now they were having to figure out how to groom themselves. They couldn't go to the salons because the salons were shut down. The beauty supply stores were shut down because they were non-essential. And so COVID, what it did, it was time for us to perform in the way that we always knew that we could. It gave us the opportunity to show Black women that, there is another Black-owned business that you can patronize, and we can treat you well. Not only can we treat you and will treat you well, we can create community around your needs. And so now you're able to talk to someone to be able to, tell them what your concerns are, and none of it was from a vain point. It was just like, look, we had a lot of women that's like, I just never styled my hair before. I just need to know how to, slick my hair back and put it in a sleek ponytail. Or I've never braided my hair before. Like, is there someone that can teach me how to braid? And we did virtual styling sessions where we partnered with hairstylists from around the world who did virtual styling sessions free, and teaching Black women how to do their hair. How to do their children's hair. It just gave us, it gave us the opportunity to do what we always do as Black women, and it's find solutions. We always are put in positions, whether it's in corporate, whether it's in entrepreneurship, to find solutions to problems. And it did, COVID showed us that we are the best at doing that. Also, what COVID did was, in the midst of COVID, my company was awarded $100,000 by the biggest tech company in the world, Google. They gave us $100,000, sorry, to continue the work that we're doing to support Black women in the space of beauty. That was a really defining moment in my career as an entrepreneur, because, oftentimes, hair is just, specifically hair extensions, it's always had kind of like a negative connotation to it. It's just never really been accepted, in our community. It's seen as like ghetto and it's just really negative. And I had to figure out a way to turn that around.
Right.
And I was accepted into a program for Google for startups. I said, why not? I want to learn more. I'm always open to learning. I went into this Google for Startups program with just pure wanting to learn more about how to be a better CEO. And at the end of the program, they told us that they had created this fund to fund 75 Black-owned businesses. And not only were we selected as one of the 75 businesses, we were given the top award of $100,000. And so that has really done a lot to propel our business forward. So in terms of pivoting, really, honestly, in 2019, in October of 2019, we had partnered with a Black-owned and woman-operated courier service, kind of similar to Uber. And we did that to bring products to the customer same day. And so when COVID hit, we were already doing contactless delivery service. We had started in 2019, of October of 2019, not knowing that COVID was coming. So we literally were ahead of what everybody started doing. We were already doing contactless delivery. So, that was a pivot that we had started months before, COVID even existed. And so for us, it was just, our pivot was just figuring out how to create more community around our brand, and realizing that we had to figure out how to create a space where our consumers really trusted us as the number one brand to come to when they needed, products to fulfill whatever their needs were concerning their beauty needs. Mm-hmm.
Wow. First and foremost, congratulations. That's an amazing feat to get that money from Google. I'm curious.
And we don't have to pay it back.
That's the best part. We ain't got to pay it back.
Or give up any of our equity. So that is very important.
Yes, that's so important. And I think the two things that I really liked was that you said you guys created community, which is different when you're teaching women on Zoom how to do their hair. Like listen, when the salons were closed, I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? How am I going to survive? My hair was slick. gel was my best friend during the pandemic. So I think you creating that level of community. But also I want to ask Tiffany, have you seen, as a response to sort of the BLM movements, more of these corporate spaces seeking to give money, right? Because that's sort of this idea that's really kind of how you create equity, is putting your money where your mouth is. Yeah. And so I know you've seen that with Google. Are you seeing that more and more in this space right now?
We're seeing a lot of corporate entities creating funds for Black founders specifically. And I think Google was definitely kind of ahead of the curve by not only creating a fund for Black founders, but also creating a space of support for Black founders. So they didn't just give us the money and say, okay, here's money. Look what we did for all these Black founders. They've kept us in a cohort of sort where they're still offering support to grow us as founders, to make sure that we're using the money in such a way that it's actually propelling our business forward. Right. I think that from what I've been hearing from some of my colleagues is that when you're a corporate entity, it's not enough to just create a fund and give the money away. The founders still need support.
Yeah. And
so if we go to your, if you're an organization that's putting together money for founders, and maybe even specifically Black founders, what you have to understand is, as Black founders, we are still behind in being able to reach resources. And so sometimes money is not enough in terms of being able to help them with resources, with other connections. If there's a connection that we need, for me to be able to go to Google and say, like, hey, like, I need I need someone to introduce me to, someone at Target, or I need someone to help me with, how to figure out how to get into this diversity supply chain, program at this company. Is there some type of connection? And knowing that there's somebody there that's going to help me to get that connection. It's not just dropping the money off and saying, okay, great, let's take a picture, let's post it up on our website, look what we did, and then and you're not providing any additional resources. So I think more corporations just need to understand that while the money is great, and also with Google they did non-dilutive funds, so as a founder, you didn't feel afraid that if I take this money, how am I going to pay it back? It was non-dilutive, so we don't have to worry about that. But corporations just need to know that Black founders just need more resources and more help. It's not just about the money.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that bit of information. I think that's very powerful. And I just want to let you guys know, you guys can also, I like to, if you guys want to have your mic, you don't have to have your mics on mute, because I like call and response. If you guys want to chime in and go after one another, you don't have to keep your mics on mute the whole time. So we can make it feel more like a conversation. So feel free to take it off. And if you guys want to, after somebody says something, if there's something you want to add, feel free to chime on into that. But I'm going to send it over to Rahwa. So Rahwa, I know at Lionsgate, I'm sure a lot has shifted and a lot has changed during the pandemic. And, I can't even imagine what happened to the entertainment industry. So share a little bit more about, how you had to pivot in your job and what, sort of initiative you had to lead during this pandemic.
Wow, that's it's difficult to know where to start there, honestly, because, while I'm full of gratitude for my health and the health of my family, I'm grateful for having a job. So many people have lost jobs during this time. I am, if I can be honest with you, I'm quite burned out. And I know a lot of you can relate. It has been a remarkably difficult time. I'm okay, but it's been a difficult time. Does that make sense? I'm an employment lawyer during a time when every facet of employment has become complicated, from remote management to production COVID protocols to managing employee burnout. I feel privileged to be in the place that I am because I am doing the best I can with what's been given to me. I feel a responsibility to my company, to my colleagues, to the employees of the company, to my fellow employment lawyers in entertainment, to, be as helpful as I can while also trying to maintain some semblance of sanity. In entertainment, we had to get adjusted very, very quickly from a production standpoint specifically, because, the show must go on, literally, and we, have a lot of money invested in our productions. And so all of a sudden, I'm a pseudo epidemiologist over here helping craft COVID protocols. And while I learned a lot, it was challenging. It continues to be a challenge. Everybody has different views, as we've seen in this past year. Everybody has different views on many things, from masks to social distancing to what activities they engage in their personal lives. But of course, understanding that activity, that engagement impacts, what you do at work, because close contacts were a huge part of the pandemic. And so I say all that to say, it has been a transformative year, not only for myself, both personally and professionally. It has been a transformative year for the industry. I think for just employment in general. Changes that were on the horizon in, I don't know, maybe the next 10 years have been accelerated. Many companies had moved forward with some type of remote work option or flex time. Many had not. And so, being forced into change isn't always ideal, but sometimes it is necessary. My heart goes out to everybody who suffered during this time, who continues to suffer. And all we can do is continue to push forward with the lessons that we've learned.
Yeah, and Pastor Heaven, if you don't mind, I'll jump in, because Rahwa and I work in the same industry and are likely experiencing the same challenges. I would also just share that there's no such thing now as separation of church and state. And, for Black people, for brown people, for people who are othered, we never have that separation. But now more than ever, you can't leave yourself at home, because you're at home in front of your camera and experiencing sort of the intersection of work and personal without any differentiation between the two sometimes. It occurred to me right sort of maybe 3, 4, or 5 months into the pandemic that I don't have a commute ride home to get myself together. I can't listen to a podcast. I can't, blast inappropriate music to myself in my car, or listen to the word, being spoken, or talk to my girlfriends, because I wake up and I'm in the same place and space with my children, with my husband, with my dog, and with no opportunity to kind of just pause, reflect, be still. And so you have to still create that time. And it's very, very difficult to do so. And in the line of work that I operate in, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is extremely burdensome because I am the constituent group. I am a Black woman that has to care for the othered in organizations, the people who show up and don't feel like they belong or are connected to the work. And so in that burden becomes huge responsibility for me and my peers that work in this space that is almost inescapable. You can't escape it.
Yeah. Wow. I think you're really alluding to some really, really good things about in relationship to the work that you do, Aisha, which is that you are the constituent. So when you go in, you have to show up in the fullness of who you are, because that's what the job requires of you. And I think that really leads into one of my questions, which is like authenticity, right? So here at FCBC, we have three, words that we say, which is live, love, serve. And the first one is live the life that you were created to live, which really means just to be your authentic self, right? Both personally and professionally. And so I kind of want you to share both from, if you guys, and I'm going to go with you, Chef Jasmine, first, from both a personal and maybe even a personal and professional perspective, whichever one and both you want to lean into. How have you kind of leaned into your own voice, finding your voice, right? Finding who it is that you are and standing in that. When you walk into a workspace or when you're walking into your personal life and how you're showing up personally, like how did you, and I know, we're still all probably on that journey, but in this moment, sort of how have you been able to kind of really find your voice and, what are some things that you've done?
I think finding your voice comes through going through life. I think that's the first thing. And I think that's every journey, when you're young, you think you know it all. But then I'm at the point where I'm hitting my mid-30s and everything is kind of coming full circle. Like when I used to complain about certain things, my thing is now I've come to a space, if this is my life, this is my journey, I'm going to conquer my happiness. No matter what, it's nobody's job but me. So when I go to work, I never want to wake up and do something that I'm lagging to do every day. That is not happiness. So I choose that in my personal life and I choose that in my professional life because I have a profession that takes a lot of my time. That is a part of my life. I want it to be happy. And if I don't like it, we can make the changes. But one thing about me, I've never been into talking about something if I see it needs to be changed. And you know how people complain and talk about it? Well, let's just speak up and change it. And I feel that, especially when we're talking about diversity and inclusion, my company now has a diversity and inclusion board. I'm now on the board of diversity and inclusion. I ended up, when everything started to go down with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, and I mean, honestly, I was coming home and I was just exhausted. Yeah. I was just so tired. That was upsetting me is I still had my job. I had a roof over my head. I should not feel this exhausted. I'm so blessed. Why do I feel this strained? So I woke up one day and I actually emailed to the CEO of my company. And I told him about my whole experience, even with the company I've been with. I am a woman chef. I am a Black woman chef at that. But being a female chef, my voice is not really heard in the kitchen. So I've had to kind of force my way into the kitchen and I've had to speak up, and not come off angry. So, but I realize now that I'm okay with myself and I have a purpose and I'm here for a reason and I wouldn't be brought here for this reason and I'm useful. Just because you've given me the job, I'm not going to be quiet. I'm going to do my job. You're going to help me grow, but I'm going to help you grow. And I think I try to do that in my personal life. And I try to do that in my work life. I just feel that, we're working right now and we're living, but I have a job that I love and my job gives me purpose. And even if I'm not with this company, I'm still cooking regardless. So whatever I do, it's about you being fulfilled every day. And that's what I try to take with myself when I wake up and go to work, come home from work and go hang out with my friends. I just want to be fulfilled and happy. And I think everything will kind of unfold with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and I hope people are empowered, and inspired to speak up, right? And I can imagine is the restaurant industry like a very male dominated space in Jasmine?
It is.
Is it?
It's very male dominated. The funny part is, even Black males don't have much of a voice. When I walked into my job at RA even as a sous chef, the cooks were like, "You're like a unicorn. We've never seen a Black person and a woman as a chef." Like, I was looking at them like, "What?" And then they all wanted to come with me about all the things that they couldn't say to the other chefs because they didn't feel comfortable. So I feel like I kind of had to like put a cape around me, and I'm not only fighting for myself, but I'm fighting for my people too, because we started out as slaves in the kitchen, and like Marcus Samuelson said, Black people had to work hard to get out the kitchen. We had to work twice as hard to get back in when it came to being professional. And I wanted, even though I had a corporate job, we can do whatever we want. If we want to be an executive chef at the Met, we can do that. I'm here to tell you the story. I was a sous chef at the Met. I did it. And I moved on to greater things. I just want, we don't get to speak up. So I feel like my voice, and I have a big voice, I'm using it to speak up. We're not just good for just cooking fried chicken. We can cook other things.
Okay. I like that. I like that. And if anyone else wants to go after Jasmine, how have you found your authentic voice, and how have you allowed that to kind of like really show forth in your work and in your personal life?
Can I just say something about authenticity?
Yeah.
And where it's permitted to show up? It's, for me, authenticity wasn't self-driven. And I'll be honest about that. It was about the people around me. I'm currently in a space where my voice is supported. I've been in a space now for some time where my ideas are listened to, where I am permitted, I am encouraged to show up as myself, and my contributions as Rahwa are valued. And I cannot say enough about what that does for a person. And I've also worked at places where that didn't feel like an option for me. And so, we can talk a lot about authenticity as a self-motivating kind of act, right? But I think that there's a lot to be said about authenticity that's nurtured by the environment around you. And so I got to give it up to the people around me. I got to give it up to my boss. I got to give it up to my CEO, and the community that I've been able to foster professionally and personally, that has supported my voice and encouraged me to dig deeper into who I really am, and use that to further strengthen my work.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to say something about authenticity. Coming from corporate and now an entrepreneur, where I employ a lot of younger women. It was really important for me to make sure that the ladies that I now that work with me are able to be able to work where they can show up as themselves every day. A lot of times, when you're in your 20s, you go straight into corporate America. And so all you know is these constraints that they kind of put on you in corporate America, and that you have to show up as this, and you can't say something, and 360-degree coaching is not necessarily fostered in your environment, and so, I'm really purposeful about really pouring into them and making sure that they feel valued, that their voice is valued. But then on the other side of that too, I'm also supporting women like all the corporate women. I'm supporting to empower them to show up as themselves at work. And really starting with their hair. It's just such an interesting, story and concept, because a lot of our customers are fighting to want to show up for them as themselves, to show up as their authentic selves in their workspace, and really feel like they can't because they are in a leadership role and they want to go to work with blue braids and they want to go to work with their afro and they want to show up with crochet and they feel like they're going to be judged just by their appearance and not by the work that they know that they can do. And so when I get these emails and these stories from women who said, you know what, I just went and I came to work with, blue knotless braids. I went on an interview and I got the job. And now I am, the head of diversity and inclusion at this big company. Like, that's a real story that happened.
Wow.
And I get these stories often. And a lot of times I share stories through email to my customers. And it's having these type of conversations to have there is an entire bill right now, the Crown Act, where women, men, and children are fighting to show up as their authentic self every day because they just want to wear their hair the way it grows out of their head. Like not even talking about braids and other particular styles. They just want to be able to wear the natural hair that grows out of their head without compromising that to make someone else feel good. So I feel like, these are the conversations that we're having in my space, again, where yes, the extensions it's just a product. But what we're doing is we're driving bigger conversations around how we look and feel as Black women and how we should be allowed to show up in a space and authentically and deliver excellence, but not be judged based off of the way we decided we wanted to wear our hair this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
that's powerful, Tiffany. You guys are doing powerful work, which is not just selling a product, but really trying to create a social conversation, moving the pendulum. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe California was one of the first to enact that law where so California continues to lead the way always.
The Crown Act, yes.
But in many ways, sometimes, I don't know if it's you guys, but it's sad that we have to have a law that permits us to be able. And Aisha, I'm sure in the work that you do around, equity and diversity, how do those conversations even come up, and how do you handle those things?
I'm fortunate to work in an industry that is much less corporate and much less conservative. So we don't really have to deal with it so much. We're dealing more with issues of inclusion and belonging, and making sure that there's actually representation in front of and behind the camera. But what Tiffany talked about made me think of, something that I feel very strongly about, in that I don't want a company to need a chief diversity officer. Like I want to work myself out of a job. Yeah. I think it's ludicrous that we have to have these roles as evidence of some sort of accountability. But somewhere in the future, I would hope that we don't need such. And back to some of the points around authenticity, people have to be in the absence of fertile ground or supportive environments like Rawa talked about. You got to decide how much courage you're going to show up with. And courage sometimes comes at a cost. Right. And I think, maybe the cost becomes lower when you rise through the ranks of an organization and, sitting around a leadership table. I'm the big mouth that doesn't care if I have a job. In fact, I've said, y'all hired me, so you obviously want me to be here. And so I walk in that. And even if it were not that situation, I can remember points in my career where I had to make a conscious decision. Am I prepared to lose my job as a result of being who I am? And who I am comes out and manifests itself in how I speak, the interpersonal skills that I choose to lead with are in alignment with my personality. I'm pretty bubbly. I like to bring the sunshine. And so even in very sterile environments, certainly not the environment that I'm in today, but I mentioned I worked in banking. Even in sterile environments, I'm like, look, I'm showing up with the yellow dress on, like whenever. And again, later in my career, where you develop that confidence and that courageousness. But today, I try to advise young women in particular that it's okay to be who you are earlier in the journey than was comfortable for me. We're operating in a different set of dynamics, and we should capitalize on that. We should feel comfortable bringing our full self to work, because in fact, people at work, and I'm talking specifically in the corporate setting, sometimes the only experience a person has with a person of color is at work, because we still live and operate in very segregated communities. And so I'll be darned if I do not give a person the fullness of who I am, because I know you're not going to experience a bunch of people like me in your regular everyday life. So I choose to bring it. And the other thing we haven't talked about, Pastor Heaven, and probably another segment for another time, is I'm also prepared to lose my job. So the courageousness that I walk in has everything to do with multiple streams of income. It has everything to do with, over the past 10 years, maybe 15, living below my means. When I got the promotion, I didn't go get the big new house and the fancy ride. Now, I got a little fancy ride. It's all right. I got a couple of little fancy rides, but I bought them certified pre-owned. I live in a way that allows for me to be exactly who I am.
And I think the power of knowing that you can always walk away and say, like, look, you need me. You brought me here. Puts you in a very powerful position. So, for those of you out there, I think even if that's not maybe their particular story, I think they can still do that, which is like when you walk into a space, I forgot who it was, but she was like, particularly as Black women, we're divine beings. When we walk in, like divinity has shown up in the room. That's how I feel. And so it's like, I'm going to operate in that and work in that. So definitely love that. I think one of the things that's always really good is that we always, when we experience challenges, we have to sometimes be the ones to encourage ourselves. And I think during this pandemic, a lot of us, our theme at FCBC is that I am resilient. And so I can imagine just from hearing your stories, each one of you guys have had a chance to be resilient this year and just be resilient in your life. But how do you find a way how do you encourage yourself? Is it, how do you keep yourself, uplifted when you find yourself frustrated and down? Or when you find yourself, like, as you mentioned, Rahwa, burnt out in this moment, right? Tired and overwhelmed. So I'll kick it off to you, Rahwa, first.
Well, historically, pre-pandemic, I've had a, robust social circle and village of people in my life, friends, family, mentors, professional colleagues that aided in the effort to encourage me. And I would draw strength from community, right? Because I don't really go it alone. I've had to, me and God, but I really don't like to go it alone. I am very open about when I need encouragement and I seek support. And I've done it, pretty much my whole life. If I can be honest with you, though, I found it very difficult to encourage myself in the past year. I've leaned on friends and family and Netflix and therapy and prayer, a combination. But, everybody's going through it. Everybody has a different struggle right now. It almost feels like I'm imposing, right? I'll still do it, but it feels like a bit of an imposition because, my struggles, maybe comparatively speaking, aren't what others may be or how I perceive other struggles to be. So, I've taken the time, and I'm more recently taking the time right now, actually, to reflect on the position of spirituality in my life. I'm going to just say this. The role it currently plays is under construction. And I really hope to come out on the other side of that renovation with a much more defined vision for that role. I have found that the spiritual practices of my youth and my 20s, I'm a preacher's kid, by the way. I'm a priest's kid, actually. Those practices require additional reinforcement and fortification. And maybe they weren't as sturdy as I thought they were. And I learned that specifically in the past 12 and a half months. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. I've taken those lessons on, and like I said, I'm in the reconstruction phase. Okay, so like, what do I want this to look like going forward? But that's my answer.
So it's like the pandemic gave you maybe the opportunity to reimagine it, even as hard as it's been. I thank you for also sharing and being like honest about that, like, and not lying, because you could have just been like, well, but it's been hard for a lot of people this year.
I can't just go to church and just like sit in the back of the sanctuary and rock back and forth like I normally do. I couldn't do that. And I was like, God, if I have to get on another Zoom, I am going to lose it. I can't do it. So it was too much. I almost felt like overstimulated. So, I had to be alone with my thoughts, and a lot of people had to be alone with their thoughts. And that's a journey that I continue to be on.
Yeah. And Rahul and I, full disclosure, she and I have known each other for a long time. She's like a big sister. And one of the things I love, and I'm going to kind of use this as a follow-up, and I'll have you guys kind of chime in on this this overall conversation around challenges, and also this idea of work-life balance. Rahul, I just admire, she like her social calendar, like when I was in California, just if I had to share, like just one of the things that I've always been inspired by you is that you don't wait till the weekend to find moments of joy throughout your week. And so I'm just curious, like, how did you kind of build that idea up and infuse that into your life? And if you can kind of share sort of kind of your philosophy around that, and how you've managed somewhat of a work-life balance, as much as you possibly can this year and before this as well.
I just try to find joy in the small places, whether it's going and grabbing food at a new restaurant, or, doing a socially distanced drive-by, say hello to people, or maybe just spend time out in nature. I try to do what I can. But to take it back to what I said earlier, I found myself during this pandemic without a full social calendar, very busy with work, but without a full social calendar. And I realized, gosh, maybe I've used that social calendar and my busyness as maybe a protective mechanism for really sitting with myself. And so I try to be a lot more thoughtful these days about what I'm engaging in, what I'm doing, whether it's for fun or for work or whatever. What purpose is this serving? Do I just not want to like sit alone with my thoughts? Do I not want to deal with things? So that is the space that I'm reflecting on, even kind of reconfiguring. Okay, now that the world is opening back up, because out here in Los Angeles, it's been shut down, like shut down. And I'm like, oh God, I've turned into such a hermit now. What am I going to do when I reemerge? Am I going to go back to the way things were? Am I going to approach life with a different perspective? Yeah, I think so. What's that perspective going to be? I still don't know. Still haven't really been alone with my thoughts fully to figure that out, but I do want to make sure I continue to enjoy the small things, and the biggest thing that I've been grateful for, aside from, of course, health and work, is the fact that I really lived life prior to the pandemic. I did a lot, I was out, I was doing things, and I'm so happy with my story thus far. And I think that many people reflected during this time thinking, God, I should have gone out more. I should have gone to that event. I should have saw that person, and try to live life with no regrets, I guess, is the lesson here.
And I see a lot of people are agreeing with you in the chat and resonating with what you're saying. So also continue in this conversation as people are, as they're sharing. If there's something that resonates with you, comment, say, add on to what the conversation is. We want to hear what you're thinking. And also make sure to put your questions in the chat so that we can ask these phenomenal women. So anyone else kind of want to
Yeah, I totally agree. I concur. Everything that Rawa said, it's like we live identical lives. I can't wait to break bread with you, sister, when I get to California. My parents are right in Pasadena, so we got a thing, you and I. Uh, I live my life by a mantra that I'm going to say Ayanna coined it because I last heard her speak it, but it's probably something that is just commonly known. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Mm-hmm. And technically, we should be pouring from our overflow. However, I know that we always have a lot going on. So the likelihood of us pouring from overflow might be hard for people to kind of wrap their heads around. So my message for those who need this message is try not to go to depletion before you pour in. So I take the same approach of pouring in little by little to ensure that my cup is never dry, that my cup or my gas tank, if you like that, is never on E, because I am useless to anyone and everyone if that's the case. Mm-hmm. And so be it, I have a tight-knit squad. There are 4 of us that through this pandemic, we have shown up on Zoom, sometimes looking crazy, talking crazy, like just, look, this is all I can do in this moment. They have literally been lifesavers for me. One person in particular is on this call. I will not shout her out, but I've seen her comment. I love you, my sister, and I owe a lot to you. If you don't have people who lift you up around you and people who know you deeply and can speak to you in the moment where you need to be spoken to most, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You got to figure out how to get that pour. And sometimes the pour comes from the squad. Sometimes the pour comes from the word. By the way, I used to think pre-pandemic, oh, if you just read the verse of the day, it's a cop out. I used to be that person. Like, you really gonna just read the verse of the day and that's it. And now I'm like, oh, if I could just get to that verse of the day. And that's the little pour, though. That's the little pour. We tend to go for the fill up and then deplete all the way to the bottom of the cup, and we just cannot afford to do that. Yeah. And that's how I maintain my balance.
I want to. I think that.
Tiffany and then Jasmine will go with you afterwards.
And I just want to, I'm sorry, I caught the tail end of the question, so hopefully I'm speaking to what you guys are saying. I get the question asked a lot about balance and about how do you balance it all? How do you do so much? How do you have 4 kids, like how do you do it all? And my answer to that question is always that I do not balance. I always prioritize. And my priorities change from day to day. Mm-hmm. And whereas there can be a day where my priority is that I need to get something done within my business. And so I communicate with my husband and say, look, I'm not going to be able to do dinner tonight. I'm not going to do baths. I'm not going to do whatever it is that you're asking me to do. My priority today is to finish this. And so we spring into action because of that. And then on another day, it could be me telling my team, like, listen, I've been working 6 days a week. I won't be here on Saturday. I'm not available. I can't do this, And so find another answer. Find to your question. My priority is I'm going to go take my kids to the park and get ice cream. And I'm not going to be available for a call. So you have to figure out what your priorities are. They could change every day. I don't feel guilty
when I have to spring into action on a particular priority, the biggest thing is just communicating with whoever needs to understand what your priority is for that day. And I think we need to stop balancing, because I always equate it to, like, imagine you being on a balance beam with 4-inch heels and trying to walk across that balance beam. 9 times out of 10, you're going to fall over, because the balance is, you just can't hold yourself up. And so it's the same thing. If you have all of these things on you and you're trying to balance it all, something is going to fail.
Right.
So something's going to fall. And so knowing that that's going to happen, instead of letting that happen, figure out what is the priority of all those things that you're carrying within yourself, within your job, within your personal life. Figure out what needs the most attention and deal with that, so you can get it off of your plate and just continue to go until you lighten that load up, so that you don't feel like you have to balance.
Wow, that's really, really good. So priorities change daily. That's a really good one to drop. Jasmine, what about you? How are you been managing that and all of that?
I think with work-life balance, I think the beginning of my career was very hard, but I feel like since the pandemic and since I've gotten it, it's like, I actually opened up my iPad, and I guess my iCloud had saved like a to-do list. Sometimes I would just write like goals. Like, I never had time. I never had time to do the vision boards until this year in a long time. So I saw an old goal list, and it said like silly things like lose weight, find a new therapist, save something. And this list is like 3 or 4 years old. The sad part is I probably wrote this list for the last 3 or 4 years. And for some reason in the pandemic, even when things shut down, I was still working, but I was still feeling overwhelmed. I realized, well, now I kind of have some time to just, figure it out with me. And the one thing I learned through all this is I need to get outside and breathe. Just take it in and let it out. So, and I pretty much lost 2 pounds in the pandemic by myself, just going on a walk every day. But it's not about losing weight. I realized that I needed to get outside, and I go walking by the water, and I just take in the fresh air and breathe. That little breathing and letting it go. And I feel like I'm giving it to God. Like, I'm just like, I made it. I'm here. I got up. And even on the days that I never even wanted to go outside and go on the walk are the days that I went. And it made me feel so much better. Just getting out, taking in the air, breathing, looking at the water, and realizing this is so beautiful. I'm here. I just realized that simplicity in my life, it gave me a much better understanding. A much understanding. I just, breathing, just taking the time to breathe. And I always thought it was silly on my iWatch. It tells you it's time to breathe. I'm like, it's mind your business. Like, no, you have to breathe.
It's the pour. It's the pour.
It is,
Jasmine.
It is. So breathing, and when I breathe and I've learned to breathe, I've seen growth in certain personal areas in life and professional areas in life. And breathe. I remember to breathe at work. I remember to breathe when I have personal issues. I just or breathing on breathing. It just balances. So that's something that I've learned. And it's just something as simple as going outside by yourself. And I leave my phone. I don't take my phone. I disconnect. I have to find an hour a day where I totally disconnect, where I don't talk to anybody. And I don't feel guilty. It feels so freeing. It is my time. Totally my time.
Yeah. Wow. Those are some great boundaries, which I'm hearing is something that we all have to implement into our lives. And breathing is such a powerful tool, especially when you think about it during this pandemic. Literally, that's like one of the most, it was so critical. People literally could not breathe. And when you realize just to be able to take a breath in, when I find myself stressed out, I take 3 deep breaths and I always feel better, just like from just those breaths. Because it feels like I'm breathing in, like, I don't know, clarity or releasing, in both those things. So yeah. I don't know if that's, been your experience for you guys, and seeing the power of breathing showing up for you. So I know we're coming close to an end, but I do want to make sure that I ask you guys 2 questions that I really want you guys to kind of share with people. So the first one is your life mantra. So what is a mantra that you kind of hold on to, that you kind of guides who you are, you know, a couple of them. And then the second one would be, who inspires you, right? So you guys are all inspiring women, and I'm sure you inspire me, you inspire so many people who are watching today. But who are the people that inspire you and have inspired you in your journey? And what about them kind of helped you to shape who you are today? So, you know, if anyone wants to kind of hit it off first.
I love these questions. I really do. If y'all don't mind, I'll just, go ahead and jump on in there. As far as a personal life mantra that I more recently lived by, and frankly, something that Aisha said earlier triggered, reminded me of it. Do not live with a mindset of scarcity, but abundance. I think I did not always live like that, by the way. I think graduating from law school during the Great Recession, seeing the economy collapse before my eyes as I was just entering the workforce, and feeling as if I had no choice but to accept whatever scraps were thrown my way was a fairly damaging way of viewing life. And thoughts become reality. So through prayer, therapy, counseling, I continue to remind myself of this mantra. So mentally, I'm not trapped into believing otherwise. And then the second question, as quickly as I was excited about it, I forgot it. Remind me.
Who inspires you?
Yes. So initially, as I was starting out my career, I was inspired by the thought of my own glory, if that makes sense. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. At this point in my career, I am inspired. I think it's the time that we live in as well. I'm inspired to engage more deeply with my civic duties as a citizen of this country because of the work of voting rights activists, particularly in Georgia, but across the country. They're doing the work that is at the very foundation of democracy. Their fight is under constant attack. That work benefits us all, I love my job. I'm in entertainment though, and of course, representation in entertainment is powerful. That work is powerful, but I have been so inspired by the political work that's been done in the past year. And I'm so grateful for all the amazing work that these activists continue to do. I pray for them. And I hope that, as I continue to evolve and grow, that my work carries that same weight, some substance, and I carry that with me.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'll go next. So when I think about mantras, I have several, but one that I will leave here today is that I am enough. You are enough. The reason why I say that is because when I started my entrepreneur journey, I remember feeling like God was giving me these visions of what I should be doing, and I simply did not understand or realize that, when God gives you vision, he will make provision for you to do the things that you need to do. And when I say I'm enough, I kept looking for other people to help me carry out my vision because I thought that it was just too big, that I couldn't do it on my own.
Wow.
And so I kept looking for people to partner with. I'm like, I need a co-founder. I need, and I remember getting a co-founder with my first company, and it turned out to be a disaster. And not that I feel like I was punished for not thinking about and not carrying out this vision that God gave me, but I went through a series of challenges that I felt that I wasn't going to be able to recover from. But now that I'm out of that storm and I look back and I'm thinking like, wow, if I had just done this by myself in the way that I'm doing it now by myself, and when I say by myself, not to discredit anybody that works with me or anything, but just being able to carry out this vision and go on this journey alone without looking for other people to validate me that this is a good decision, I would be so much further along. So when you have a vision, when God gives you a vision, realize that he gave you the vision and that he will give you the provision to carry out that vision. You don't need to invite anyone else in that space. So that would be my mantra. And then in terms of in being inspired, when I think about my life journey, I think about along my way, women have been placed in my path to help me. And I know that that's not everybody's story. It's a lot of, we always talk about mentors and having other Black women as mentors, but I can specifically think about women along my journey who have helped me to the next phase that I need to get to. And they were gracious enough to pour into me in some type of way to help me think about things in a different way to get there. You know, even when I was 15 years old and I even thought about braiding hair, the lady who was braiding my hair at 15 years old basically brought it to me and said, hey, do you know anyone in the neighborhood that would want to learn how to braid? Because I'm getting older and I want to teach some other young girls how to braid. And I said, well, I don't know anybody, but I'd be willing to learn. And I walked to her house, a mile to her house every weekend, and she taught me how to braid.
Wow.
Her name was Miss Gloria. And I always say, if I could find Miss Gloria and tell her, can you believe what you taught me at 15 years old? And now I'm creating $1 million businesses from hair and braiding. Like, that is like, wow. You know, when I was in corporate America, I had just graduated from college and I got my first management leadership position at Bank of America. And my manager at that time, Raquel, said, she pulled me into her office, and, you know, I'm in my 20s and I come to work all cute with my little form-fitting top on and my fishnet stockings. And I remember her pulling me into the office and she said, from this day going forward, you are not to wear fishnet stockings. You are to wear a suit coat every day. You are in leadership. You are a Black woman. No one is going to take you serious with your fishnet stockings and your form-fitting shirt and your skirt. You have to also dress for the role that you have. And she gave me 3 suit coats, a black one, a gray one, and a blue one. She said, I'm going to start you off with these coats, but every day you are to wear a suit coat. So I feel like she poured into me. Nobody else was going to tell me that, you know. And she gave me advice as just a young woman, just preparing me for what could happen as I continue to climb up that corporate, you know, ladder. So those are just 2 examples. But because of that inspiration, I feel responsible for also giving that same type of inspiration and give back to other young, you know, women. And so it's inspired me to do so.
Wow, that's so powerful. Those 2 stories are so powerful because those 2 women, particularly the first one that you mentioned, probably didn't even know, you know, it's something as simple as teaching you and passing on that tradition, taking the time to teach you how to braid hair was going to, you know, lead you on this very beautiful path. And so for those of you guys that are watching, also make sure to share what are your mantras in the comment section. What are and who also inspires you, and if some of these mantras are connecting with you, make sure to put them in the chat conversation as well. We have confidence and authenticity exudes all of you. I love now if I can wear it with such confidence and courage, but this is an area definitely under construction for me, and this panel is pouring into my cups, so you guys are pouring into their cups today, so thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate all of you guys. Kim has shared, yes, balance is not daily, but with a mindset of balance, we wake up with areas of life that are seriously neglected. So you guys are pouring into these women, and women are connecting and being able to resonate with what you're sharing. So Aisha and then Jasmine will have you share. We'll have you share afterwards.
And that, listen, the comments that you just made is the point, right, of a session like this. We all are trying to be more intentional about pouring in, and I'm so happy. I'm trying to look at all the comments on the side, and it's warming me up just to see it and to know that what we're saying is resonating for someone, is impacting someone's life in a positive way. So my 2 mantras that I've always lived by, because they were taught to me from the time I was able to speak, is life is about choices. I choose to show up how I show up every day. I choose how I am going to react to something or let something impact me, both positively and negatively. And I try to remember that in the darkest moments of my life, that, you know what, I have a choice every day. And so that one's been sort of very much at the center of who I am. The other one is more of I guess, a protective measure, but it's get up on the 10 count. My father taught me that. He is a warrior. I am a warrior princess. And I believe that if God opened my eyes and gave me breath every day, that it ain't over. It's not over. And so as long as I can get up by the count of 10, and getting up does not mean that you necessarily got up all by yourself. Sometimes you need to grab somebody's hand, a chair, put your foot on a step, but in some way, shape, or form, get up, because the fight is not over. And that sort of leads me to who has inspired me. The list is exhaustive. It is too many women to name. All I can tell you is that in my journey, in my family first, the women of my family are some of the strongest, most independent, fierce fighters that I've ever met. My Nana, my great grandparents, my mother, my stepmother, they are all women who have had to press through an awful lot. Some of the most tragic and trauma-filled stories are an outgrowth of my experience and through my elders, the women elders in my family. When AMC Networks, hired me, they told me I needed to come in and take some fancy pictures for the press release. So I was feeling myself and excited about that. And what I chose to put on for those pictures was a brooch that was my Nana's. And it was a reminder to me that you have made it only because of where you come from. And yet, and you better never forget that. My grandmother, Nana, was a very complex human being. She was very critical of me, which was hard when I was growing up, and I didn't quite understand it until now, that level of criticism was designed to make me great. It was designed to show the world what class looks like. And I don't mean class like status, I mean class like classy. It was designed to show the world what a fighter and a winner looks like. It was designed to show the world what a woman of faith looks like. And so I thank Evelyn Bostic. She is not here to see me, but I know she sees me. In addition to that, I gotta give props to all of the women who have given me an opportunity to hold their hands and who have held my hand, particularly women between their 30s and 40s, which for me represent the hardest years of my life thus far. It is the miracle years, as I describe them. I don't know how I made it. Actually, I do know how I made it, but I don't know how I made it. Those women that allowed me to hold their hands had no idea that at various points on the journey, they thought I was helping them and they were holding me up. And so I thank them. They each know who they are. If I had enough time, I would rattle off a list. But I have been surrounded by people, women in particular, who have inspired me greatly.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that powerful, very powerful word. And I think one of the things that Aisha, you were sharing about choices, as a clinician, I always tell people, particularly that the power of choice is a very powerful thing. And the minute that we begin to feel like our choice has been limited or taken away from us, we start to operate in a place of what, Rahul was talking about, scarcity, or in a place of fumes or our cup being not filled. But always remembering that we always have a choice. And I think, what you're really in the last part of alluding to is the Black women or the women in your life that for all of us that make up our genealogy. Their strength lies in each one of us, and how we're all showing up today is a testament to who they are, whether it's our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts. These are the women, I would say our first inspirations, were the people that we saw in our households and in our families. And so thank you for sharing, and we uplift your Nana today, and grateful for all that she's poured into you. Jasmine, if you want to share as well, what are your mantras and who has inspired you? I think you're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. Yeah, there we go. Gotta make sure we hear you. Awesome.
My mantra is actually God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. I take that wherever I go. And it doesn't mean something bad's happening. It doesn't mean that everything's coming to an end. And yes, when times get tough, but always remember you're going through the process because you're going to come out better on the other side. And every process that I've been through, good or bad or in between, I've come out stronger. I've come out with better knowledge for that. So I think I think that's something that I live by and I stick by in everything that I do. You take it on, you can handle it, you got it. And yes, it's going to get hard, but once you get through the hard part, you realize you made it. So that's what I really live by. The things that inspire me, the people that have inspired me the most, I come from women. I come from a family of very strong women. I also come from I've had a lot of great cultural experiences. And I think that I am inspired by culture, especially. I'm inspired by the women that have shown me the different cultures, but I'm also just inspired by cultures. I think people inspire me, and I think that's why I'm a chef. I sometimes have a day where I like to just put my headphones on a sunny day and walk around. And I have my sunglasses on, but I'm people watching. There's something fulfilling about that, and especially in New York City, because you can go down to Chinatown, we can go to Queens, we can go. There's just so many things, and I feel like if you just look at life and the simplicity of it, that is so inspiring to me, and I feel like it can translate into so much more. So I'm really about people inspiring me. And, I just grew up with a father that always told me, never let anybody steal your joy. Your joy is your joy. And the funny thing is, now that I'm older, I thought it was about a boyfriend at first, but as I'm older, I'm realizing it's not about a boyfriend. It's about my personal life. Do whatever you want to do. Your joy is your joy. So I really, that's what I live by. Culture, joy, and just enjoying life and embracing each other. I'm really inspired by that. So that's all I got.
That is a great way for us to end it, Jasmine. Thank you so much for letting us know. I think don't let anybody, for those of you guys that are watching, steal your joy. So many wonderful gems that are dropped. I know I'm going to have to watch this, so much that you guys have shared and inspired with me. So we're going to give you guys a nice virtual hand clap. So give you guys the hand. Yay. And so thank you guys. Thank you to everyone that watched us this afternoon for our first ever Women Inspiring Women virtual empowerment brunch. We hope that you guys enjoyed the conversation, and make sure to tune in on the YouTube or Facebook page afterwards and share this with everyone. So thank you so much to our honorees and our panelists this afternoon. And we will see you guys again next year for our next Women Inspiring Women Empowerment Brunch. Thank you guys so much.